Just came across this post on X by Scott D. Clary, and I think it's extremely pertinent for mental health reasons. Just want to read it to you and then talk about it for a little bit. It says, the real reason you're tired all the time, it's not your workload, it's your open loops, the text you haven't answered, the apology you owe, the decision you're avoiding, the conversation you keep postponing. These run in the background of your mind all day, draining your battery. Close your loops. Watch your energy return. Mental clutter is more exhausting than physical work will ever be. I totally agree with that. It reminds me of a somatic therapist, Peter Levine, who talks about the law of completed action, how in nature, that's the way nature functions. In the animal kingdom, whenever there's a threat, right, there's fight or flight, and then fortunately freeze and collapse. And when we freeze and collapse, it just simply means the loop is left open. We haven't completed something. So for example, if a lion is chasing an antelope or its prey, the antelope is fleeing, has cortisol, epinephrine, and these powerful neurotransmitters, adrenaline to have it run for its life. It's fleeing for safety. And then when the antelope is free and gets away from the lion or a tiger, then the stress hormones go away. The loop is completed. He was able to get away and finish that task of self-efficacy, of taking care of themselves and maintaining their safety. A lot of what I see and that I've been working with for years in therapy with individuals is that individuals are stuck. They're frozen. The loops are open. They don't know how to close the loops of past traumatic events when they didn't have the capacity to take care of themselves appropriately in those moments. So it's a powerful concept. And I remember someone that I used to work with, wonderful lady, Tracy Morris. And she helped me teaching Muay Thai martial arts classes to adult female survivors of childhood sexual abuse as a part of healing and finding their strength and power. And she always talked about kind of this same concept of energy leaks, that we've got to stop the energy leaks as a fighter and as someone taking care of themselves. Look for where you're wasting energy. So I want you to think of this concept of open loops, those things in your mind that are bothering you the most and you keep putting off. See, your brain won't let you rest until you confront those things and deal with them. And I know it's extremely challenging sometimes, but there's help available. You don't have to do this alone. That's where therapy can come into play. And a lot of the therapeutic work, again, what we do, some of the past patterns, experiences, abuses in life that have happened, they've not been completed. And so there's part of us that tries to go back and recreate that in metaphorical ways, and we just keep cycling and doing the same thing over and over again. And in order to find healing and regain your power, you've got to be able to find ways to close those loops. And that is the purpose of therapy. And finding self-efficacy and taking your power back. Another thing that can help significantly in closing your loops, it's another book that came to mind that a colleague gave to me for Christmas one year. It's called The Checklist Manifesto. And this goes right in alignment with something else that I recently heard on a podcast. Very popular podcaster. Sorry, I can't remember his name right now, but he's a great podcaster. And he talks about people he actually worked for the CIA for a number of years. And he rose to managerial type position. And in this podcast, he was talking about those who he saw become extremely successful. The most successful agents are those who kind of lived by a certain rule in their mind. They never allowed their emotions to rule their behavior, but they worked off a checklist. Something that I've been working with clients, I call them dailies. Dailies are small and simple tasks that we simply complete on a regular basis, and they're non-negotiable. The checklist, and then in the book, The Checklist Manifesto, the guy who writes it is a doctor and talks about all the things they see in the medical field and all the mistakes that we make as human beings. And because of our human fallibility, and again, from my experience and drawing on other authors, if we rely on motivation to get things done, we're in trouble, because motivation is a lot like the weather. It comes and it goes. Take one of my dailies, for example, is exercise. Physical exercise is a non-negotiable. First thing I do every morning, this works in my schedule. Everyone's schedule is different. I'm not saying mine's better than anyone else's, but first thing I do, I'm an early riser, so I'm up by 4 every morning, sometimes earlier than that, usually 3:30. And I get to the gym at 5. I'm working out at home. I just start a little earlier. But then I go through a routine. I know exactly what I'm doing. I no longer have to write things down because I've been doing it so long. I just know there's certain things that I do. Resistance training, I'm an advocate of lifting weights. That's what resistance training is. At any age, lift weights. I am 67 years old right now. 66, going on 67. My wife always reminds me of that. But I feel as healthy as I ever have. But I have to keep doing it. And though I worked out yesterday, it's irrelevant. And I've just got to be consistent. Small and simple things done on a consistent basis. And as a general rule, I'm extremely healthy. I rarely get sick. I just put myself through a very rigorous routine every day. Sit in the spa, take a sauna every day at the end of my workout on top of it, usually 2.5 hours. But I was doing that even before I was semi-retired. I would get up super early and no matter what I was doing, I'd get to the gym and do that. And then I'd go to work and sometimes work 8, 10, 12 hours a day. And you seem to have more energy, at least I did, more energy actually doing that stuff. But you figure out what works for you. But again, point of this podcast today, closing open loops, getting done what you need to get done. Answer the emails you need to answer, or not. If they don't need to be answered, then just forget about them. But if it keeps bugging you, if you got a relationship issue that you just keep putting off, your brain will not let you rest because it's not completed. It'll be much more powerful in all areas of your life. And again, back to the CIA agent, I'm not sure I really explained that clearly. It's like those who rose to the top, they did not allow their emotions to control their behavior. They lived on checklists. They simply did certain things on a consistent basis, whether they wanted to do them or not. And whether it's like reading 10 pages in a book every day, exercising, there's a million different things. It's individualized, of course, to yourself. But I would suggest you just no more than 4 or 5 things, because you don't want it to be too burdensome. But what are the non-negotiables in your life? When you're in your healthy, rational brain, what is it that you know would be extremely helpful for you as you continue to navigate through your life? And then you make these things non-negotiable, and then it just takes so much pressure off yourself because you just do them. You don't wait to feel like doing them. You just do certain things, and then your feelings towards those things change, and you always have a tendency to be better off because you did the things you said you were going to do. Patience and persistence, doing small and simple things on a regular basis, eventually can move mountains. And one of the things that I'm very concerned about that I've seen as a mental health therapist in this rising generation is just the expectation of things should just come so easily. The idea of hard work, the idea of patience, the idea of being consistent at working hard to achieve a worthwhile, meaningful goal is kind of being lost on this rising generation. And I think we need to get back to some of those foundational ideas. I'm telling you, the happiest that I've seen people, the happiest times I've been found in my life, is when I'm engaged in a very worthwhile, meaningful, taxing goal, has purpose behind it, but I'm fully engaged in reaching for it. So there seems to be something in nature that is striving for excellence within us. Also reminds me of the book by Robert Greene, amazing book called Mastery. He talks about that in a much better way than I can explain here in this podcast, but the need that we have within us to search, to excel in searching for excellence and mastery in all areas of our life. But as it relates to mental health issues, and again, the purpose of this, of what I want to say to you today, in increasing your energy to function in life means we need to close loops. So if there's something that keeps bugging you over and over and over again, it's just an energy drain. It's trying to get your attention to do a certain thing. And here's a quote, and I'll leave with this quote. And this comes from the book Mastery by Robert Greene. I actually do have that on my desk. And I love this quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and it fits into what we're talking about today. He says, "A man should learn to detect and watch that gleam of light which flashes across his mind from within." Now, to me, that means you have a thought you need to get something done. So like when I woke up this morning, there were like 10 different thoughts that seemed to hit me rapidly. Need to do this, need to do this, need to get this done today, need to follow up on this from yesterday. All of those things. So I went and I just wrote them all down, got them out of my mind, and I wrote them all down. And that's in addition to, I have 5 things that are non-negotiable checklist. That's also on that checklist, but then there's some other things I needed to get done, so I wrote them down. So again, a man should learn to detect and watch that gleam of light which flashes across his mind from within, more than the luster of the firmament of bards and sages. Yet he diminishes without notice his thought, because it is his. In every work of genius, we recognize our own rejected thoughts. They come back to us with a certain alienated majesty. So listen to that last line as we're talking about open loops that are not, or the law of completed action, as we talked about. They come back to us, certain thoughts come back to us with a certain alienated majesty, meaning they're not going to leave us alone until we get it done. Now, I guess you can reach a point where you get so hard-hearted you refuse to listen to them, but that's when we go into the horrible state of being stuck and frozen, and we just don't feel like moving because it seems so onerous to deal with what's in front of us. I'm just saying to you, I know that within each of us, 100% belief, there is a capacity within each of us to deal with whatever is in front of us. The obstacle is the way. The thing that you're faced with right now is the very thing that, in a positive, hopeful, productive way, just deal with it, confront it, go to work on it. Don't ignore it. Don't deny it. Deal with it in the appropriate way. Seek wisdom, but I'm saying confront it with courage and bravery, because it will not leave you alone until the loop is completed. Again, law of completed action. And again, so thing to ponder this week: if you notice open loops, do something to complete them, and then see how you feel. And I'd appreciate any comments that you make. If that works for you, send me a comment. Wherever you're listening to this podcast. I know we've got it on a number of different avenues and places, but if you can, send me a comment if that works for you. Again, law of completed action. Focus on closing the open loops that you have to find and maintain your energy so that you can really proactively be working on the things that you want to work on and find a deeper feeling of joy and meaning in your life. All right. Have an amazing week.